Hello everybody, thank you for tuning in to the Moneybag 73 channel. Today on the Moneybags channel we're going to be discussing an interview that I listened to last night from 2006 that Mike Maloney was doing with James Turk, the founder of Gold Money. And also I want to touch a little bit on housing market, interest rates. And then I'm going to get home, pick up Maggie, go out for the evening walk, in holding myself accountable challenge. And then I'm going to give you my top 5 real money experts. So, listening to that interview, Mike Maloney asked an important question. What's wrong with the dollar that's causing people to run from it? Now, remember, this is back when gold was $700 or $800 an ounce, and about 5 years ago. And the answer couldn't be more simple and plain. That's one of the reasons I like James Turk. He speaks in a way that you can understand what he's talking about. He makes it understandable. He has a lot of experience, I think 35, 40 years in banking and financials. I mean, he has a lot of information, but he makes it so that you can understand it. And I think that's important because most people aren't expert money managers or, experts on the economy, what have you. The average Joe is just waiting for American Idol to come on. But anyhow, I'm sorry. I'm not going to go down that road. So he asked him, he says, why are people running from the dollar? And the explanation he gave was, he gave like 6 or 7 points. He said, one was, we're creating too many dollars. And that's happening right now more than it was back in 2006. I mean, the Fed tripled their balance sheet since then. We have way too much debt. Well, I don't know exactly what the debt was in 2006, but probably about 6-7 trillion less. I mean, it's 15.2 trillion right now. And with future obligations, it's over 100 trillion. I mean, the debt is astronomical. Number 3 is we're spending more than we're making. Well, I know right now we're spending somewhere in the ballpark of 1.5 trillion beyond our means as a country. So I guess that trend is still with us. And number 4 is we're borrowing more than we're saving. And that trend is probably more in effect than it was back in 2006. So, these trends are unsustainable. And he says that we're consuming wealth in this country as opposed to producing it. And unless the government is going to do what's necessary to, to turn this ship around, the dollar's just going to continue on down. And what are they doing? Well, they're not doing what they need to do. They put together a super committee a couple months ago who's trying to cut out a couple $1 trillion over the 10 years. Some joke, we'll probably tack on to their 15 trillion in that time. They're going to try and cut 1 or 2 trillion out. They couldn't come to agreement on anything. We can't depend on Washington to solve this problem. We've got to depend on ourselves. We've got to become our own central bank. We've got to have some real money. I mean, sometimes I think about myself. I'm like, man, you sound kind of unpatriotic. You sound, you're against the dollar. I'm just trying to be real, everybody. I'm sorry. I didn't set this up. This is the hand that I've been dealt, and I'm trying to deal with it the best way I can, and I'm trying to inform people, hey, look, this is what's gone on. I'm not some type of psychic or something. I mean, this is what's happened, and this is most likely where it's going to lead. I mean, it's a lot of common sense involved. And, when I tell you the 5 favorite real money experts, most of the time when I listen to those guys, sure, they're wrong sometimes, but most of the time it's just common sense. I mean, it's just everything runs smoothly and like a fine-tuned engine. Listening to a finely tuned engine, that's how it feels when I'm listening to these guys explain what's going on, as opposed to all the banging and quirk noises I hear when I put on mainstream financial channels, and they're saying, oh, the dollar's stronger than ever, and gold's in a bubble just popped, and the silver bubble popped, and whatever. They're nonsense, idiots, just total idiots on television. So I wanted to also mention, James Turk back in 2003 in Bloomberg said that he saw $8,000 gold in the future, and his explanation was quite simple. Looking at history, in 1970 we had $35 an ounce of gold and 800 on the Dow, and by 1980 you had 800 for an ounce of gold and 800 on the Dow. The Dow didn't really go anywhere. So since there's 10 times more money now, it takes $10 to buy what $1 did back in the 70s. You just tack a zero on. So this was in 2003 when he said this. So gold was at 350. The Dow was at 8,000. So he said, we're going to see 8,000 on gold and 8,000 on the Dow. You just add another zero. It makes perfectly good sense to me. But since then, he said that we're going to see $11,000 gold. And, there's probably, I've seen 10,000, I've seen 11,000, I've seen 12,500. I did a video on James Sinclair. I think I saw 15 or 20,000. I don't know. If the dollar crashes, we could see $1 million gold. I mean, it all depends on the dollar. And I guess I'll leave it there. About interest rates. I guess about a year ago, I did a video saying that interest rates were going to see 3.75. Well, we're almost there. We were around 5% when I said that. And I'm going to make a new prediction. Let me remind you not to listen to my short-term predictions. But this is just what I'm thinking. I'm thinking we're going to see somewhere between 3 and 3.25. Back when I said we were going to see 3.75, we didn't have Operation Twist by the magician there, the money printer, Bernanke, and we didn't have them saying they're going to hold interest rates down to the end of 2014 near zero, the Fed's rate. So anyway, that's that. I tried to refinance. I have a 5.0%. I tried to refinance to 4, but only going to save like $10 a month because they changed the way they do the PMI. So you put up less initially, but your monthly payment's higher. So it doesn't save me anything. So I need them to go down near 3.25, and that's what I'm saying we're going to see. Okay, everybody, I'm going to give you my top 5 real money experts. In the order that I started learning from them, number 1 would be Peter Schiff. I read his book in 2007, totally laid out everything that we've seen so far. I love seeing people argue with Peter, but he knows his stuff. I've learned a lot from that man. Number 2 is going to be Mike Maloney, who wrote one of my top 5 favorite books I ever read. He did such great research on that book, so wealth of information, and it's fun to read. I mean, for the common person, it just makes sense. It's not one of these textbook type with formulas and just the type of shit that bored me in college. So number 3 would be James Turk, and Eric Sprott would be number 4 for me. Learned a lot from him lately. He's turned a lot of attention towards silver, saying it'll be this will be silver's decade, where the last decade was for gold. And then last would be James Sinclair, Mr. Gold. I mean, how could not mention Mr. Gold, right? I mean, he has a wealth of information. Back in 1999, he said gold was going to go to 1650. I think it was around 350, and people were calling him nuts back then. Well, what are they saying now?